Hello. So we're here with Dr. Samuel Chawner. Hello.
Hi,
Could you please introduce yourself and your background?
I'm Sam, a research fellow at Cardiff University. I've been working in research on 22q1.2 deletion syndrome for over 10 years now, particularly focusing on mental health and child development.
So could you explain what 22q11 is?
So 22q1.2 deletion syndrome is a deletion on chromosome 22. So the number 22 refers to the chromosome, and the Q refers to the arm of the chromosome, and the 11 refers to the region of the chromosome. Most of us have 2 copies of chromosome 22, but individuals with 22q deletion syndrome have a section of it deleted, so they only have 1 copy of the 22q111 region instead of 2.
So could you tell us some of the main symptoms and challenges associated with 22q11?
It's a difficult question because over 180 symptoms have been linked to the syndrome, and as we do more research we're finding more. But some of the kind of main features are cardiac defects at birth, speech and language problems, including physical problems with a cleft palate, immune problems, learning disability, and also psychiatric and developmental issues.
Yeah. Could you please elaborate on the key issues that you research in your projects?
So really focused on learning, development and mental health. So our research has shown that if you give an IQ test to children with 22q1.2 deletion syndrome, they're more likely to score lower on it compared to their siblings, around 30 IQ points lower on average. And this means that children can have therefore a range of difficulties at school. But we also, although this was on average it was 30 IQ points lower, we saw a wide range of variability. So there were lots of children who had higher IQ and lower IQ. So it's a really important point that educational needs will vary a lot for children with the condition. We've also focused on development, so our research has shown children with 22q11 are more likely to receive a diagnosis for autism or ADHD. But again, it's important, it's not all children. I think for autism we find it's around 25%, and for ADHD it's around 1/3 of children meet criteria. And then for mental health, we see increased rates of anxiety, mood problems in children and adolescents, and in adults we see an increased risk for psychosis.
How manageable is the condition and what is it dependent on?
Management of 22q deletion syndrome is complex because there are so many symptoms associated with the condition. And sort of new clinical approaches are kind of multidisciplinary clinics. So where in the 22q clinic there would be a psychiatrist, paediatricians, neurologists, physiotherapists, immunology specialists, cardiac specialists. Those seem to be the best clinical environments where different specialities are working together. But I meet many families who they see one speciality and they might look at the cardiac symptoms but the other symptoms don't get addressed. And health provision really varies across different areas of the UK but also different countries depending on how their health service is set up.
Has your research also highlighted how 22q affects different ages?
So here at Cardiff University we've done research from toddlers right up to adults. Kind of main findings are that I guess there's different mental health and developmental issues at different ages. So in childhood, we see high rates of ADHD, autism, anxiety. These seem to persist into adolescence. And then in kind of early adulthood, that's when we see symptoms more like mood problems and psychosis.
What do you think can be done in order to get more undiagnosed people tested in order to help people who are unaware of the symptoms that they have?
I think there's two important approaches. Firstly, kind of just raising awareness of 22q deletion syndrome amongst clinicians. There's very low awareness, and often the families we meet through the research, we're sometimes the only professionals they've met who actually know and have encountered the condition before. Yet it's the second most common genetic condition after Down syndrome. So it's not, people kind of say, well, clinicians, how are they expected to know about every rare condition? But actually our understanding is that 22q isn't actually that rare, and there's great awareness of other conditions of similar prevalence. So I think if clinicians had better awareness, that would make it easier for families to receive care, and also it would mean clinicians were more likely to spot perhaps signs of the syndrome when a child comes to their clinic. A second important approach, I think, is population screening, particularly newborn screening. In the UK, the sort of National Health Service strategy, genomics is a large part of that, and in some areas of the UK they have been piloting newborn genomic screening. There's already some genetic conditions that are screened as part of the heel prick test for all babies, but 22q currently isn't on that list, but there would be potential.
And do you think due to low awareness about 22q there's misdiagnosis regarding it?
What is really interesting is we meet families where a child gets diagnosed and then they do genetic testing in the rest of the family, and sometimes they find a parent may have the condition. That happens around in perhaps 10% of families. And parents will talk kind of, sometimes they were labelled the naughty child at school, or the teachers find their learning difficult, and they'd have a range of different health problems, and then it's only kind of later on in adult when they receive the diagnosis their kind of different health symptoms make sense.
So how have charities like Max Appeal helped both the medical professionals and families in dealing with 22q?
Max Appeal have been amazing in bringing so many different professionals together, so researchers, clinicians, and then they've set up the all-party parliamentary group for 22q, the first of its kind, and by connecting all these different professionals, it means researchers, clinicians and families have been able to share knowledge about the condition, talk about the latest research, the latest clinical innovations, and they play an important role in the 22q clinics that happen around the country. So as well as the sort of clinicians who are part of the clinic, Max Appeal kind of provides additional support to the families. Also, when a family receives a diagnosis of 22q, it can feel quite a lonely experience. Max Appeal play a hugely important role in kind of providing advice to families following a diagnosis, but also providing that social aspect and connecting families together.
So how closely have you worked with Max Appeal, and what has your role been in that?
So I've been working with Max Appeal for over 10 years now. I first started when I was a PhD student, and so in terms of research, they've been immensely helpful in helping us to connect with families who are interested in taking part in research, because often, because there isn't much awareness amongst clinicians, Actually, Max Appeal's members are probably the largest sort of group of 22q individuals in the country. And also Max Appeal run conferences for families and professionals, and that's been a great opportunity to present work and kind of share knowledge on the condition. And then also running the parliamentary group, that's provided opportunities to kind of share research with policymakers.
Wow, that is amazing. Is there anything else you would like to say that will help us raise awareness about the condition, or topics you think are concerning for future professionals to study about or research about?
I think it's just really important to highlight, often people think about it as a rare condition. It isn't actually that rare. It's the second most common condition after Down syndrome. It's more common than conditions such as Fragile X that people have greater awareness of, and it's partly because they've only been able to do the genetic test for the condition since the 1990s. Just hope this leads to greater awareness. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for doing this.